Majority of people have no fucking idea. The mainstream is very quick. Was very quick to jump on Assad. Immediately blamed Assad for it. Just like the last chemical attack in 2013. And people blaming Russians for it. People blaming the states for it. People blaming ISIS for it. And there's like 5 different groups that are getting blamed for it. And,
okay, so
I saw, forget where I saw this, but there was the theory that Assad and his military during the bombing bombed a facility that had chemical weapons, which were in the possession of these radicals. And I don't know if it's ISIS or al-Nusra. I don't know who actually controls Idlib.
Okay, so yes, you have a pretty clear picture of what's going on. But first, I think we should backtrack, okay?
Because before we backtrack, which one is it?
Which one?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
What's your theory? Is it the Russians? Is it America? Is it ISIS? Is it Assad? Who did this chemical attack? And
okay, I'll get to that. Okay, basically, the Syrian Air Force had intelligence that Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is a merger, which is the second largest extremist behind ISIS. If you go on their Wikipedia page, their stated objective under their charter is to establish an Islamic State across Syria. The West defines this as a just, moderate opposition because they don't espouse an international vision of an Islamic State. So they don't believe in a global caliphate, but they believe in a nationalist Islamist vision of Syria, which is that Syria would be ruled by an Islamic State, but it would only remain within the borders of Syria.
Oh my God, that's the difference, is that it's not an Islamic State. It's not the entire world.
They're not a threat to the West. They're not a threat to the West because they only want an Islamic State in Syria.
Okay. And what sect is this?
So this is the group 40. The area that they attacked,
what is
the Syrian Air Force.
What is this group that has hold of Idlib?
What
is this group that has hold of Idlib? What are they called?
Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. They are led by none other than Al-Qaeda in Syria, which is, they changed their name to Jabhat Fatah al-Sham. They used to be Jabhat al-Nusra. They provide over 70% of the
So this is al-Nusra. They're not called al-Nusra anymore.
No, they changed their name.
Oh my God. It's hard to keep up with all of this.
ISIS, this is what a lot of people don't know. ISIS was actually Jabhat al-Nusra, which means these guys used to be ISIS.
Same shit, different pot.
But they separated from ISIS because ISIS broke apart from Al-Qaeda. It's a long history of that. But basically, what they're doing is they're protecting ISIS. They're protecting the same people that Salafist, Wahhabis, violent jihadis. And the area that the Syrian Air Force attacked was under their control. The village.
It's like bordering northern Syria. It's like bordering Turkey.
Now, here's the comment that I made. I said, I started off my comment with quoting Adolf Hitler. I said, make the lie big, make it simple, keep saying it, and eventually they will believe it. That's what Adolf Hitler said.
Yeah, the one big lie.
Now, this is why I said we need a reference point. The source of information so when I talked to Chandrima today, I asked him, I said, where are you getting this source? Where's this information coming? Like, who's the publisher? He had no idea. I saw it on, these people don't, this is where they get their information from. I saw it on Facebook. What the fuck kind of source is that?
Well, like,
on Facebook.
Well, majority gets their information
that was the discussion
media.
that I wanted to elaborate on with you, that we should have actually an entire discussion on what social media has on and how people basically get their entertainment, their news, their socializing, almost what they used to get from what was considered mainstream media, they're getting it all from social media, which has become the mainstream media.
Yeah.
That's another topic that we'll discuss another time, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, let's try to focus on these chemical attacks specifically.
No, so now I want to go back to who their source is. That's why I said, who's their source? Their main source is the SOHR, right? The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. And if you actually go and find out what this is, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, it's actually financed by Western intelligence and Western governments, and it's led by one man who hasn't been in Syria for, I'm pretty sure, I don't want to give false information here, but I know he hasn't been in Syria for at least a decade. He's been exiled for at least a decade, so he doesn't know what's going on in Syria in terms of on the ground, because he's not a reliable source, because he gets secondary information from people on the ground, right? And so he's a guy that lives in Coventry, England. He is literally the source for all Western media. They always quote the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, and he's been repeatedly disseminating false information. So that's one of the first things that you need to know, that a lot of people don't. It's one man living in Coventry, England, who basically lives in this flat in his apartment, and he's just getting this information from terrorists on the ground, and he's sending it to BBC, fucking Reuters, CNN, all these fake news agencies have disseminated propaganda over and over and over again.
This is their source, a person who has a history of spreading misinformation, propaganda,
and has direct connections to Al-Qaeda and terrorist organizations that are internationally recognized terrorist organizations, that are not only just terrorist organizations internationally recognized, but the United States has them on this list of terrorist organizations. This is where he gets his information, this guy. But yet the West supports him and uses him as a credible source. So first of all, that's a key point to remember. Secondly, we have to look at the history. They claim, Western media, they continue to claim that Assad has gassed people in the past, which is an absolutely false claim.
That has been proven. That has been disproven over and over and over and over again.
United Nations investigation in 2013, I followed it. I actually read the report. There was absolutely no conclusive evidence to suggest that the Syrian military had conducted attacks. In fact, there were many rebels who came out and said that they had attacks with support of Saudi Arabia and Turkey. An MIT investigation, a separate independent investigation from the University of MIT, they did an investigation. They found that it was not 100% conclusive that the Syrian military did not launch the attacks in August of 2013, which killed, they suspect, a couple hundred civilians. So now what's interesting is after the attack, there was a false flag, a blatant false flag. The Obama administration never reiterated the claim that the Syrian military had conducted that attack, but they would always say a man, Assad, who killed me. But the media would, but the administration would.
Yeah, exactly.
So the media is now basically a spokesperson for the fucking administration.
The media has become worse. The media is like a bigger propaganda machine than the administration itself.
The media is owned by select interests, by special interest groups. Like it has the CIA's towers are in there, Saudi money's in there, fucking APAC's in there. You have all these vested interests in the media. They work together and they have an interest in disseminating lies and promoting a false image.
Yeah, and it's sad. It's really sad that instead of investigating and being critical and suspicious of the government, as real journalists should do, they're actually doing a bigger favor to these elitists than the establishment itself.
Precisely. Now, what a lot of people don't know is here's the way I would describe it. Most people have been following this conflict. I've been following this conflict every day for since it began, basically. And if you have no context to understand why this is happening, then all you're gonna see is dead children, dead women, dead people, and you're gonna look at the media and you're gonna just swallow their pill and you're gonna believe everything because you're seeing these horrifying images of suffocating children, not breathing and dying, and you're gonna think, oh my god, this is horrible. We have to do something. Right? It's absolutely a manipulation for a political agenda.
The appeal to emotion is so effective, and it doesn't. Absolutely. And what I don't understand is how people are so quick to jump on whatever they see. It's like if somebody says Assad did it, and 1,000 other people say Assad did it, everybody else is just going to assume that Assad did it, without any investigation, without looking at any alternative possibilities. This is horrible. They see these images of suffocating children and babies, and they say, "Oh my God, this is horrible. Assad has to be stopped." Well, wait a minute. Of course, it's a horrible thing. Even Trump came out and said this is a horrible act, but even he himself didn't say that it was Assad. You need to.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been following it today, but the United States military is now discussing military options on striking selective targets of the Syrian military, which could cause World War III. And they are in discussions right now with the Russian military to discuss where the Russian military is positioned so they don't strike this Russian military.
Isn't this such a tragic time for this to be happening? Because wasn't the U.S. military the U.S. government just starting to work with the Syrian government, and everybody was.
And so now Trump comes out today and says my position on Assad has changed since today, and I'm not a guy who's going to hold. He had a speech outside the White House, and he said I'm not a guy who's going to hold. He said I'm flexible. He mentioned that like 3 times. I'm flexible. I'll change my position. Of course, you'll change your position because you got that Saudi Jewish cock in your fucking ass. You're going to change your position because you're probably going to get assassinated if you continue working with the Syrian military.
So some of the earlier things that I heard him say about it did not actually directly mention Assad. Now you're saying he is bringing Assad's name into the picture.
Now I'm talking about Assad must go again. Assad is the bad guy. We need to reverse our policy. We need to send weapons and aid the Islamist rebels that want an Islamic state. They are going back to the old Obama card. Israel actually just launched airstrikes into Syria today. They suspect it's Israel, but it was unidentified aircraft that struck the Syrian military, the Syrian government today.
Jesus. And how many times has Israel attacked Syrian military since?
Many times. Too many to count.
Too many times. They do it pretty frequently, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Now that we have the historical, basically the history of their lies, important to reference. Let's talk about the actual, the context in which this happened, okay?
Okay. So, I mean, it sounds like it's very similar to the last chemical attack.
But this one is actually even worse because the Syrian government has been advanced every single province across the country. From Aleppo, they just captured a major city, Deir Hafar, from ISIS. They just went on a huge counteroffensive north of Hama. They expanded. I mean, everybody knows that Aleppo a couple months ago. They took Daria in the summer last year. They took Wadi Barak. These cities. They took city after city this year. They took many cities, and they've expanded the grip on the. And even Trump acknowledged that Assad is now. We have to accept the reality that Assad is going to stay in power, and the people should decide, right? This was a couple days ago for that time. He said that.
Yeah, just when we thought that things might be turning around, that the Americans are actually working with the Russians and the Syrian army, and ISIS is going
the Syrian military finally had connected their Turkish territory, and they were working towards fighting ISIS, and then bam, all of a sudden, 2 weeks ago, Turkey, this all has to do with because the Syrian military, with an alliance with the YPG and with coordination with Russia, they basically tried to end occupation, well, not the occupation, but the Turkish operations, the expansion of Turkish, and they shit on Turks. They shit on Turks. Erdogan was fucking furious. So this, I don't have evidence to support this, but this is my personal belief, that my personal suspicion that Turkey is behind this, because today there's, I don't know if you remember, before 2013, actually the U.S. intelligence came up with a briefing saying that Jabhat al-Nusra had sarin cells. They were capable of producing sarin, and that they might have actually had sarin. And there were reports after that Turkish intelligence had provided Jabhat al-Nusra and other Islamist groups with sarin, with actually a couple, I forget the amount, but it was kilos of sarin, and they were actually stopped in Turkey by Turkish police, and their sarin was confiscated. They tried to explain to them that they were working with the government, and at least didn't give a fuck. So we know, and from Carla Del Ponte's United Nations investigation into Syria, that the Syrian rebels have used chemical weapons in the past against civilians, against the Syrian army, and they have used chemical weapons. So
what about the theory that America provided rebels with chemical weapons under the Obama administration?
America wouldn't directly provide, because America, as described by Joe Biden in his fucking now famous speech at Harvard, where he talks about how the biggest problem in Syria was their allies, because they were basically responsible for creating the Islamic State. He said to the Turks to basically provide these weapons. So the program, if you read the Defense Intelligence Agency document back in 2015, May of 2015, it's a declassified, basically talks about how US used their allies to provide weapons. So they did provide direct weapons to some groups, but the strongest groups, they would give those weapons to the Turks and the Saudi Qataris and the Kuwaitis.
Okay. Yeah, so it was through their allies.
They were via Turkey.
So Turkey has,
what's my bonus? Yeah.
your theory, and it's just speculation, is that Turkey is responsible for this attack. That's one part of it. The other, you said that Turkish officers actually stopped sarin gas from going to Syria.
Yeah, police officers.
And that's...
that had going on. They stopped these guys. They said, "What do you got in your car?" And they found fucking sarin, kilos of it.
Holy shit.
Yeah, this was back in 2000.
Yeah.
And there was actually warnings in 2013, before the Eastern Ghouta attack, that there was going to be a chemical attack, a massive one, and this was by Western intelligence, so they knew there was going to be a false flag, so they were preparing for it. Now, another really important thing to notice is they had, if you look at video footage coming out of Khan Sheikhoun, the village that was attacked, these guys, almost Hollywood style, they had dust masks, and they had all the equipment ready for a chemical attack. How would they know that? Where did they get this equipment?
This was...
If they get bombed, if they're under attack, if the hospitals are being bombed, if there's no hospital left, where are they getting this equipment?
This was the attack that just happened?
Yes.
You're saying that the people on the ground were prepared for it?
Like the civil defense units, what they call the White Helmets, they basically put on like a Hollywood act, and they had these fucking dust masks, all the equipment, chemical weapons.
So, well, earlier when we were talking, you said that when I mentioned that this could have been an attack by the Syrian army on these al-Nusra, I forget what they're now called, practically ISIS, and that when they bombed them, they also ruptured chemical attacks that were at the target site. And is that what you think?
So we don't know everything, but here's what we know. We know that the attack happened in St. Petersburg the day before this attack, right?
Yeah.
We know that Russia and Turkey are officially allies, and they coordinate heavily in Syria, and they share intelligence, right?
Yeah.
We know that Russia has betrayed the Syrian government.
Yeah.
Since when Israel bombed, Russia doesn't tell them get the fuck out, they just let them die. So now, my suspicion is this, that because they're not checking in northern Syria, where do they go? So logically, the only area that they order Syria where they can supply weapons to terrorists is in Idlib. Because if you look at the map of Syria, the Kurds basically control all of the north, and basically the Syrian army only controls a small strip near Latakia, controlled by what you would call, what the mainstream media would call the Free Syrian Army, which does not exist.
So you're saying that the majority of the arms and transport from Turkey goes through Idlib?
Oh, all of it does, because that's where they're fighting. They have no fly route to ISIS anymore. Turkey, unless they airdrop weapons to ISIS. But their objective is to, because they got shit on in the north of Syria, and they basically just announced the end of Operation Euphrates Shield, which began August of 2016. Erdogan regime only came out and said, we will continue to support the opposition, and we will continue to make sure we work towards peace. So what kind of peace do they want? They want to use these rebels as a bargaining chip in the Astana peace talks, because if they don't support them, they're going to be crushed by the Syrian military military, and they're not going to be, and Turkey's not going to have any position in the negotiations for what the future of Syria will look like.
So just tell me what you think happened.
Here's what I think happened. Turkey supplied them chemicals.
Okay.
Russians got attacked, and Russians probably got from Turkey because now this is why I wanted to provide the context, because context is extremely important. So, like I said 2 weeks ago, there was a major offensive by Sham in north of Hama province, and they captured many towns and cities. They captured a city called Syrian. It's pretty big. It's about 40,000 people. They captured Tayyibat al-Imam. They captured Maradis. They captured many small towns and cities. And they went on a huge offensive. And I talked to you about this before. I showed you video footage of the Syrian army fighting them. And then they only were able because the Syrian government was focusing on ISIS because they were in a ceasefire negotiated by Russia. But since Turkey got to bring all their forces back and stop fighting ISIS, they have barely made advances on ISIS in the last 2 weeks, the Syrian army, except near Palmyra, but they're just desert area. And so they brought elite Tiger forces and their elite Syrian army units and even Hezbollah units and NDF units to north of Homa, and they launched a major counteroffensive. And hundreds of terrorists died. They killed a whole bunch, and they basically reversed the majority of the gains of the terrorists. They had almost all of the territory they lost. They're still working on taking most of it back. Just north of that is Khan Sheikhoun, the city. And Khan Sheikhoun is the largest city that nears Idlib. Now, if Idlib falls, it'll be the end of Erdogan's fucking wet dream of basically actions in Syria. Now, because Turkey got shit on, my belief that they provided the rebels with chemical weapons, or they provided them with information, or because Turkey's been providing them with billions of dollars in aid. These guys would not know how to fucking manufacture chemical weapons out of the blue. They would have to send specialists, and they would have to send technicians and engineers and fucking scientists, you know what I mean? Specialized people. And so these guys either got the chemical weapons, or they got people sent to manufacture these chemical weapons. And the Russians got the intelligence from the Turks, and the Russians used the Syrian military to target the warehouse. The Syrian military, now I'll read you the statement from the Syrian military. They said, we deny the use of any chemical toxic material in Khan Sheikhoun town today, and the army has not used nor will use in any place or time, either in past or in future. This was earlier a Syrian military source told us that Damascus had not used chemical weapons and dismissed the accusations as rebel propaganda. The army has not and does not use them, not in the past, not in the future, because it does not have them in the first place. Because remember, when the United Nations did the deal, what's it called, the organization?
Yeah, didn't Assad say that after the first attack, Assad...
Remember the organization for the prohibition of chemical weapons when they came out and they said, we have taken out all of Assad's chemical weapons? Remember that?
Yeah, didn't John Kerry say that they didn't have any chemical weapons?
So now where are these chemical weapons coming from? And that's this thing, we're not covering the facts. We're not talking about this history. We're not talking about the fact that the Syrian military gave up all their chemical weapons. And it was verified by the OPCW and the United Nations and independent investigations. And not only did they get rid of all their they are allowing investigations again to Syria, because why would they not allow if they were
not responsible,
if they were guilty?
Yeah, I mean, it's very obvious. You're guilty. You're not going to want an investigation.
So the context that I provided, the rebels are getting shit on. So what do? They're getting butchered. What do? They basically get Turkey to use Russia to attack chemical weapons depot with and then use that way to provoke Western intervention against Syrian military.
So you think that was there a Russian coalition bombing on Idlib?
No, the Syrian military said they did it.
Okay.
The Syrian military openly admits that they had bombed a warehouse in Khan Sheikhoun. They openly say that, but they said we did not know what was in there.
Yeah, and so how is Russia responsible?
Well, Russia, they are responsible. They're not responsible technically, but they're the ones. No, I'm not saying this is my.
They're the ones who gave Assad the intelligence to bomb the place.
How would the Syrian military know if they have no presence on the ground? They would only know through the Russians, through the Turks.
So what you're telling me is that this is another giant conspiracy.
Absolutely, huge conspiracy.
Oh my goodness! You know, it's too delicious. This sounds like one of those very appetizing conspiracies that when you connect all the dots, it makes perfect sense. But you try to tell this to somebody else, and they're gonna say you're a nut. I mean, you're just drawing, you're connecting dots that are just convenient for your worldview, and this you don't have any proof to back it up. But when you actually look at all the different factors and global powers that are at play, this sounds like a very plausible.
Think about this, Adam. Think about this for a second. What does the Syrian military have to gain? Because I've been following this war on a military level, on a political level, on a human level, on every level, but mostly on a military level. As a military, what the fuck do you have to gain by attacking a small town with chemical weapons and killing 50 civilians and provoking an intervention against you from superpowers of the world? What the fuck do you have to gain when you're advancing on every single province, in every single area of the country, from Palmyra to Deir ez-Zor to Aleppo to fucking every single province to Idlib to Hama to Homs to Damascus to every fucking part of the country, you're winning the war. So why? And the Americans just acknowledge that you have legitimacy. You can stay in power now. Why the fuck would you go ahead and use chemical weapons? It makes no sense.
No,
think about that.
It didn't make sense in 2013. It will never make sense for them to use chemical weapons on their own people, whether they're under terrorist control or not.
But the thing is, Khan Sheikhoun was nowhere near where they were having battles. It was just north of where they were fighting. But if they were fighting in, let's say, a village, they were actually having clashes, then okay. But they haven't had operations in Khan Sheikhoun in years. So why would they attack it? It makes no logical sense. They've been conducting airstrikes in Idlib, but as for using weapons, it makes zero sense strategically.
And well, I know that the Russians play a very dirty game, and Westerners have a very hard time seeing through.
Westerners are extremely naive when it comes to the Russians.
Extremely naive. I mean, so many Westerners praise Putin and they praise
what Russians did in Syria. When the Syrian army launched the offensive to capture Raqqa in 2016 of last year, the Syrian army sent most elite Desert Hawk units of the Syrian military in the deserts of Syria to capture a military base, which is one of the largest bases in Syria, and to use that as a platform to launch attacks to retake Raqqa. Well, what happened was they got close to Al-Thara city, or Al-Tabqa city, and what happened is ISIS launched a huge counteroffensive with not a single Russian airstrike inside the Syrian military. And at that point, the Russians were conducting hundreds of airstrikes a day, and they did nothing. The Syrian military came out with a letter, and I read that letter, and they said this was absolute utter betrayal from the Russians, and we sent our most elite men, our best men, and they died in the deserts to ISIS. It was a fucking shame. And they retreated, and they retreated back to their positions, and they haven't made an advance in that area since then. So people need to understand how Russia is there to maintain their military base, and they just signed a 45-year contract, a lease for their military bases. And not only that, but they're establishing military bases without the support of the Syrian military in Kurdish territory. So Russia is not there to fucking end the war. Russia is not there for peace. They're to their interests.
Why wouldn't Russia want an end to this war that they're invested in Syria?
Well, for one, they can use ISIS and terrorists as hard against the Syrian military for many years to justify their expansionism in their country, to have more influence in the Middle East, to say, look, there's a terror threat, we need all these countries, and then to have a dominant role in the Middle East, to expand their influence and their agency in the global superpower. Because if they defeat ISIS, they defeat all the terrorists, then what's there left to do?
This is pathetic.
And it's a training ground. This is a training ground. They're testing their military equipment, and the Russian arms and the Russian military-industrial complex is making huge money from this.
Yeah. So let's get this chemical weapons attack story straight. The Turks gave these militants chemical weapons. The Turks gave Russia intel on the location of these chemical weapons. Russia then relayed that to Assad, and Assad followed those instructions and went and bombed the place, unknowingly that they were bombing a chemical weapons garage, essentially.
Yeah.
And what would the attacks on St. Petersburg have to do with this? Just like a revenge?
Absolutely. It was just a way of saying, look, we're not going to go there. It's just to send a message to say, look, we don't give a fuck. We'll use proxy chemicals.
Mm-hmm. It's extremely tragic how Syria is getting played with, and especially the Assad. I mean,
fucking raped right now.
They've just been trying so hard, and they're getting
portrayed as the bad guys.
They're getting portrayed as the bad guys. They're getting portrayed as the worst of everybody that's involved in the war. And
I mean, just listen, 50 civilians, well, they up to 80 have died. Oh, wait, the United Nations Security Council debating a resolution demanding Assad turns over, what are they demanding? Demanding that flight plans, flight logs, and any other information on air operations, like all flight plans, flight logs, names of all individuals in command of any helicopter squadrons, arrange meetings requested, including with generals or other officers, within no more than 5 days of the date on which such meeting is must immediately provide access to the relevant air bases. They want access. Okay.
You know how Assad has always been very willing to give them all the information they've ever asked.
It's never enough.
No, it's never enough. He's done anything he could. He invited UN inspections. He gave up his chemical weapons. He's going to give them.
And yet, oh, bro, you used your chemical weapons that you don't have.
Jesus, my God. You know, another thing I don't understand is, I know it's horrible, obviously, people suffocating, twitching, and it's a horrible death. But how much worse could it really be from the type of deaths that people suffer under bombings and gunfire? And I mean, bleeding out to death with half your body torn apart sounds pretty horrible. In some cases, could be worse than suffocation. Like, why are chemical weapons treated as this like one of the worst things possible when nearly 600,000 people have died up till now?
Why? Because it's used as a political tool to justify military intervention.
Yeah, but what I don't get is why the masses treated as
why they don't know what the fuck's going on. They just see some bodies of fucking people twitching, and they say, "Oh my God, look what's happening. We need to do something. This is horrible."
Oh my God, it's pathetic because they have I mean,
people bombed every fucking day.
Those are so much more traumatizing. You watch somebody with half his brains falling out and his parents dragging him out of rubble. People don't have the guts to watch something like that, but they'll watch somebody suffocating and convulsing and say, oh my god, this is horrible. We need to intervene. Something has to be done. What?
No, like for instance, literally either a week ago or 10 days ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago, I can't remember exactly because days are going by really fast. But very recently, the United States launched airstrikes and they killed hundreds of civilians. They bombed buildings of people living in these buildings and they killed hundreds of civilians. And they opened it, well, this is what happens. This is war.
America did this recently. They've been murdering hundreds of people in Syria.
In Iraq and Syria. And actually in Syria, recently they bombed in just near Raqqa 50 civilians.
This is much worse than the chemical attacks.
Oh, they've been killing thousands. But people don't understand. This war is. You're dropping. It's hilarious. We have smart bombs. We have laser-guided munitions. Bro, you're dropping bombs. These big-ass bombs. 1,000-pound bombs in these fucking densely crowded neighborhoods in the city center where people live. You're gonna kill mass people.
You're burning people alive. You're killing them with shrapnel, with rubble falling from above them.
We're targeting terrorists. Well, what do you think the Syrian military is doing? Fucking the same thing. They're targeting terrorists. Obviously, they're killing, they're bombing them, but that's what it is. That's what war is. There's no clean war. There's no good war. War is dirty. War is brutal. Millions of people get fucked, injured, and maimed. You know?
No, but they have smart bombs.
Yeah, that's what they want to tell you. And they say, well, the Syrians use barrel bombs. It's the dumb bombs. They just drop them and attack civilian areas. Well, look at the U.S. Look at the death tolls of the Iraq War, and look at the death tolls of war in Afghanistan, the war in Vietnam, and all the U.S. wars, all the major U.S. wars, and huge civilian casualties, abnormal civilian casualties.
Millions.
Yeah, where's the... Like, if you actually listen to Americans talking about the rules of engagement, the ROE, so they say basically, we just shot at anything that moved. That was our orders. There was no regard for civilians. That's all just immediate fucking bullshit. You can't win a war when you're concerned about civilians. It's impossible to win a war if you're concerned about civilians because you're only going to bomb. That's the reason why this Syrian army captured Aleppo in the first place, because the Russians had no regard for civilians.
There's the rhetoric is so dehumanizing. Collateral damage.
The logic is this: the Syrians killed Syrians, so now we must kill Syrians to stop Syrians from killing Syrians.
I've seen that meme before. It's tragic.
It is.
Anyways, this has been nearly 45 minutes. I'm gonna end this now, but we can continue talking. And, I think we pretty much covered it. Do you have anything else to add to this specific incident?
I think we covered it all. But I guess that's it.
Well, we'll have more talks on Syria, but it's unfortunate that this is going to go down as just another conspiracy. And what's even more unfortunate is that this conspiracy is not going to be widely accepted like some of the very obvious ones.
No, this is what's going to happen. The investigation's going to come out. There's going to be multiple investigations. They're going to be like, well, there was chemical weapons there. The Syrian army did bomb there. Assad's responsible for something.
Yeah, put one and one together and conclusion. Yeah.
So if ISIS held chemical weapons and you accidentally killed a whole bunch of civilians, that means somebody should attack the U.S. There's a logic.
I mean, that's a good perspective.
Think about it. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
No, it doesn't. And it's funny, but my gut feeling when I first read about that was this could very likely be the case. That
you know something's propaganda? The way the media reacts.
Oh yeah. You know what?
Their friends know 150% that this is absolutely positively politically motivated.
Oh yeah, we've been saying this for nearly a decade now. As long as the media is so focused on something and makes something such a big deal, you know that there is something much bigger behind it.
Now, U.S. action against Assad. Trump's considering options response. Yeah, this is a huge false flag. They're using it, and Trump's a piece of shit. He's sold to the industrial complex. Fucking foreign Saudi oil blood money, the science, the fucking special interest of bankers in Wall Street, the fucking pieces of shit created Al-Qaeda since the beginning. From the CFA, Bilderbergs to the Rothschilds, all the motherfuckers that niggas sucking their cocks.
Oh yeah, he's not gonna stop. We knew this from the beginning.
You know what they're gonna do? They're gonna start bombing some Syrian military bases. They're like, well, that was our response. Because they're not gonna go. No, they want to know exactly where the Russians are. They're not gonna touch the Russians. Russians are gonna be like, yeah, bro, just go bomb some. And then the Russians are gonna tell the Syrian military, yo, just evacuate everything from there. And they're just gonna bomb some empty shit on TV. Look, we attacked the Syrian military. That's what's gonna happen.
Jeez. See, it sounds like they're just gonna prolong this war forever.
Oh no, this is anytime soon.
Anyways, I'm gonna stop it at that.
Yeah.
Sound like a pretty accurate analysis, because at this point you don't know who to believe.
Analysis on this.
I'm not sure. It's so scattered because the masses are just following the mainstream narrative, which is that it's Assad. And I get all these people on my social media freaking out about chemical attacks. Obviously, it's so sad. That's I think one of the more tragic aspects of these incidents is how eager the masses are willing to follow whatever the mainstream needs. They just jump. They jump right on it.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but that reminds me of the raps. They say, "Is Coney a success?" Of course, kids are literally begging America the
Pony 2012 was an experiment. Was it a success?
Yes, kids are begging the US to bomb Africa next. Check this out. Let me introduce you to Gavin, my son.
Gavin, what does Daddy do?
Kill poor people with guns.
Yeah. Now look what happens when I show Gavin a picture of an African. Who's this?
That's a bad guy.
That's right. And what do we do to bad guys?
We use drones and armed forces to kill them and take their resources.
Yeah, see, Robert? Even a 4-year-old has got it. This makes me so proud. I'm sorry.
The video's done more than you ever envisaged, and in 27 minutes, without cats or titties.
We used to have to wait for terrorist attacks to justify interventions and mineral grabs. Now, thanks to viral videos, we can send advisors to arrest bad guys.
And what will you do once they've been caught?
Hand them over to the International Criminal Court.
You mean the same court which the US refuses to submit to for its own war crimes and abuses? Is that hypocrisy?
Robert, honestly, the ICC only prosecutes dark people's atrocities.
Okay.